All right. All right. Yes, sir. Hold on. I'm trying to get like this phone. Screw it. I'll just leave it like this. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mack and Black podcast. I am Black, also Negro. Nick Russell sitting in my Yankees jersey, best team in the American League. You can't tell me nothing. As we're beating the absolute mess out of the Tampa Bay Rays. You know the funny thing is, so yesterday I was out hanging out with some friends yesterday, and the Yankees, I guess, lost 1-0 yesterday to the Rays. And I love how the Rays fans all of a sudden stick out their chests. They're like, oh, nobody thought that we could, simmer down the Yankees bats, blah, blah, blah. How is that working today? Because you know, and I know both, that this series, this game is over with. You got the best pitcher in the league and Garrett Cole going right now, and you think with a 4-0 lead, you guys are going to come back? Come on, dude. You guys smoke crack. Hey, that's why I said enjoy the win, because it wasn't going to last. You got a doubleheader today, which, by the way, I need to talk about that because this whole 7-inning doubleheader thing is stupid. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a real fan of it. I'm not a fan of the whole 7 innings. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. Why not just leave it 9 innings? Like, I was thinking about this on the way in today. Like, Rob Manfred is a dope. And we've been clown this fool on this show for so many weeks. But Rob Manfred is a full dope. You're trying so hard to try to appease this new crowd of coming in that you alienated the whole old crowd. The only thing Rob Manfred needed to do this year was make a universal DH. That's it. We didn't need no 7 inning if it's gonna be a doubleheader. The whole three, what is it? The 3 batter rule. If you bring in a reliever, it's all stupid. That takes out the strategy of the game. People think, well, Nick, and that's the same thing about making the National League do DH. No, pitchers shouldn't be hitting. That's why they're called pitchers. Their main job is to pitch the baseball. They shouldn't be worried about a bat in their hands. But to sit here and be like, okay, well, if you bring in a lefty on lefty, he has to face 2 other batters. No, that's not what baseball is. Tell about you're trying to speed up the game. Baseball was not meant to be a game that's played in 2.5 hours. It's going to take 3.5 hours because that's tragedy. Do you speed up chess? No. Why? Because chess is a strategy game. So is baseball. Come on, man. If you start learning to teach your kids patience and not teach them other nonsense, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. The attention span of these kids, blah 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 blah. Man, forget them. Shoot. I ain't never seen no kids go to a baseball game and be like, oh my God, daddy's too long. They're out there having fun. If you're trying to appease to the fact that games are expensive and stuff, then stop making hot dogs $10 a pop at certain places. Sweet mamacita, like beer in most of these ballparks, almost $8-9 for a regular can of beer. How you expect you to take a family out to go enjoy the game that you're out here trying to promote where you can't even eat at some of these places? Stuff's ridiculous, but like, come on, man. Hey, I got to give a shout out, dude, though, to the Chicago Cubs, man. Hey, the Cubs out here killing it. Even with them having a lack of a bullpen, whatever, that lets me know that the Cubs had shut out, that some of this locker room had shut out Joe Madden. Seriously, that's what that lets me know. Because Brian Ross has come in and done a phenomenal job with this team. And like I said, they got them bullpen roles. Like, I don't know what's wrong with Craig Kimbrell, but man, does he make games interesting. But the Cubs got what? The best record in the National League? If not in baseball? You got the St. Louis Cardinals, basically a gang of idiots decided to go out to a casino. And that goes back to what we talked about last week. Remember when we talked last week, we were talking about how Rob Manfred had come out and had said, like, look, guys, I'm not shutting down the season because you guys are too much of idiots to know what's going on and what to and not to do. I shouldn't have to hold your hand to let you know that with stuff that's going on, maybe you shouldn't go to a strip club, maybe you shouldn't go to a casino, because if you couldn't go to a strip club or casino when they were shut down, what makes you think it's okay for you to go now, especially knowing what's going on? And you got the St. Louis Cardinals, who supposedly a bunch of these guys went to a casino and got a whole bunch of people, and they got themselves sick. So like, what was it, like 10 or 12 of them tested positive for the COVID? It's like, come on, dude. I shouldn't have to do you like the NBA where I got to put you in a bubble to make sure that you don't get sick, which I guess is working out for the NBA because outside of Lou Williams going to whatever strip club he went to, no one's getting sick and everything. But Rob Manfred's thinking like, hey, you guys are grown-ass men. Figure it out. Come on, man. So now the whole Cubs versus Cardinals series is put on hold. And they're going to have to work with a bunch of doubleheaders to try and make them games up. Because a bunch of grown-ass men are flipping hard-headed. That's all that is. Hard-headed. Don't make no damn sense. People sitting there acting like the COVID is gone. Nah, man, it's not gone. We still got to do all this social distancing. No matter how much you want to believe in it or not, you still got to do it. I mean, hell, I don't like wearing this mask on my face, but I do it anyway. If you know you're not supposed to be going to a casino because you know there's not a lot of social distancing going in at a casino, we've all been there at least once. Anybody that's over the age of 21 has at least been to a casino at least one time. There is no such thing as social distancing at a casino. And God forbid these guys stay in the goddamn house for a little bit during the baseball season, knowing that you could easily catch this stuff and knowing that it could affect some things. It affected the Yankees and the Phillies. The Yankees and Phillies damn near had to play 4 games in 3 days. And you had one game, and I don't understand this, where they legit had to play a doubleheader in Philly where you had the Yankees wearing the road grays, but they were considered the home team. You're going to tell me you guys couldn't taking 5 to 10 minutes to switch jerseys? That looks stupid. Well, the Yankees are a home team, but they're in their grays. What? No. But again, man, shout out to the Cubs, man. They look really good. They look really good. Big props. Big props to how good they are. Huge props. And if they find the closer, I'm anxious to see how the Cubs are going to venture against a team like the Twins or the Indians, who right now are kind of killing it in the AL Central. I'm anxious to see how that's going to work out. I think personally, I think they're going to do just fine with the way the Cubs are playing, but they got to shore up that bullpen somehow. Like Craig Kibble's going to have to figure it out somehow. He's going to have to. Because there's like no way hold on, my fault. I'm an idiot. There we go. They're gonna have to figure out like somehow in some way they're gonna have to figure out that bullpen situation. If they can figure that out, I'm telling you, the Cubs I think could be dangerous. I really do. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go on MLB right now to kind of see as the Yankees still have the lead. I'm gonna look at the schedule here. I'm sorry, the standings right now. Like I said, the Yankees are 9-4. They're 3 games above Baltimore and Tampa. The Twins are at 10-4, but look out, the White Sox right behind them at 8-6. And remember, this time last week when Mack was here, the White Sox kind of came out of I think they're like 1-3 or 1-4 going into last week. They're now 7-2 since then. The White Sox have caught heat. And we put a lot of hype around the White Sox with the moves that they made, but it seems like now the bats are starting to get better. And I was thinking that if the White Sox were going to continue to come out and struggle, how much longer or how much faith do you have in Rick Renteria? Like I know that that when it comes to Rick Renteria, the White Sox love him, the players love him and everything. But if you're not getting the results, how long does that love really last? But they've seen to catch fire. And then, like I said, the Chicago Cubs are 10-3, which technically by winning percentage wise, they have the best record in baseball. And that's for a team that kind of has closer issues. But you, Darvish, a friend of mine, Aaron Lopez, who's a big time Cubs fan, said it best. Cub fans couldn't wait to get you out. This was a dumbass contract. Why did you sign him to that? You've been really good this year. And sometimes that's what happens when you bring in a new voice with a new direction. This Cubs team, I thought over the last couple of years weren't that bad. I thought some of the contracts they signed was kind of stupid. I thought that contract they gave Jason Hayward was kind of dumb. I thought it was way too much. But if you sit here and you think about it, the whole team kind of just shut down under Joe Madden. They really did. I thought they shut down under Joe. But now you bring in Brian Ross, and then the question with Ross was is he too much of a players guy? Like, will the players take advantage of him? Because he just won a World Series with these guys in 2016, and he's still great friends with some of these guys. So when he comes in, are they really going to listen to him? Apparently they are, because they're 10-3. You got to understand, that comes to professionalism of that. Yeah, that's my friend. Yeah, that's my homie. Yeah, this and that. Yeah, we can celebrate afterwards and everything. But when we're on that field, that's my manager. Whatever he tells me I got to do, I got to do. And the Cubs look good. And now the White Sox are starting to catch a little bit of fire. So baseball back here in Chicago is a lot exciting because there's a time where, the White Sox are rebuilding, and then the Cubs are kind of like, they went from being World Series contenders, then they win the World Series, then they get to the CS, and then they struggled in the one where they only scored like 2 runs and 2 home games between the Rockies and the Milwaukee Brewers, and then they just kind of settled in the middle and just very mediocre. And now, still with the same talent they have, with a new voice that's got them in a new direction, instead of just a coach going out there and saying, well, maybe you guys should stop sucking and this and that and everything else that he was saying, and all the antics that came behind Joe Madden, the Cubs are 10-3. Eric Carbonell, what's going on, man? You know what I'm saying? So, I gotta give props where props is due, man. I mean, the Cubs looking real good. Look at that team, the Astros, they're under 500. You got the A's leading the West. How about the Miami Marlins? Miami Marlins is 7-1. They've won 6 in a row. The Marlins are playing really good baseball too. So you can't sleep on those guys too. We'll see how long it lasts, but they're playing good baseball. I cracked a joke about the Mets because I think it was earlier in the week. They were up, 7-2 on the Atlanta Braves, and then their bullpen is so bad that they let the Braves come back. But I had said something on my Facebook. I said, when it comes to the New York Mets, it's the same team, different manager with the same results. They went out there and made that trade for Robinson Cano, and they made that trade for their closer Diaz. And Diaz, when he came over to the Mets and saved 57 games for the Mariners, this man all of a sudden don't know how to close games. But let me tell you something. Playing baseball in New York is not for the weak. Take a look at Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray was a really good pitcher in Oakland, so much so that the Yankees gave the A's a package they couldn't refuse when they brought him in to New York. And Sonny Gray struggled so bad in New York. He was walking guys. Guys were hitting so much off him. He couldn't figure it out. So they traded him to the Reds for a very lesser package than what they got from the A's. And Sonny Gray's one of the better pitchers for Cincinnati. And it's the same thing with Diaz. Diaz was so good when he was out in Seattle, and now he comes to New York on the other side of the bridge, and he's struggling over there. And I'm saying playing in New York is a different breed. I mean, look at Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson's one of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball. He was lighting it up in Seattle. He was a multi Cy Young Award winner in Arizona. The Yankees brought him over, and he couldn't struggle, and he just couldn't figure it out. He was not the same Randy Johnson because when he left New York and ended up going to San Francisco, he didn't have the same fastball, but his effectiveness was still there. He just couldn't figure it out in New York. Some guys can't handle the press. Some guys can't handle the number one media market in America. They can't handle it. When you come to New York, it's a whole nother monster. And Randy Johnson couldn't figure it out. And he's one of the greatest. Not everyone is cut out to play in New York like that. You're welcome for us taking out the Pinguinos. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to talk about that too soon. And you brought up J Happ. J Happ has been struggling. I don't know what's going on. But we need J Happ to come up in the most desperate way possible. We need J Happ to step up. Garrett Cole can't be the only guy that's pitching that knows how to pitch. Like James Paxton, I don't think James Paxton is healthy. His fastball used to be able to touch about 95 to 97 consistently. The couple of times that I've seen him pitch where I'm not, doing the two-job hustle, 93 at best. He's not going to get away with 93. Not with the way that Paxton pitches. He's a power pitcher. And if you're coming at me with 93 miles an hour, that lets me know that back may not be as healthy as we may think it is. Now, for whatever reason, I didn't catch on who pitched last night, but the Yankees and Rays were both in a war, premium run. Only one run was scored. That was by the Rays last night. This time, the Yankees have given Garrett Cole some support, and I don't see him blowing a lead in a shortened 7-inning game because the Yankees and Rays have a doubleheader. What a dumbass move. Really? Really? Speaking of which, here's Keith Robbins, one of the only and biggest Ray fans I know. Let me know how that game's going there, Keith. How's that game working out? That's why I told you, enjoy the win while it lasts. And Giancarlo Stanton just hit a solo home run, so the Yankees are 5-0. The game's over. Just get ready for game 2. If Garrett Cole gets taken out of the game, it's because Aaron Boone had a brain lapse. As a matter of fact, Garrett Cole is actually going for some long-time record. I saw that the other day where he's chasing baseball history. You know that Garrett Cole has not lost a game in I think he's like won 19 straight decisions. And the record for that, actually, it's not. It's 19 straight. He hasn't lost. He hasn't had a loss. Like he's won like 19 winnable games, I guess, for a black way of putting it. The record is 24. If he wins this, he's at 20. For as much as we clown the Houston Astros, you got to give props is due. Garrett Cole, there was always the talent there. It's not until he went to Houston when they actually sat with him and said, let's grab this sinker and this two-seam and let's just focus on your four seam and we'll focus on your change and your curve. And I think if you lessen the pitches and just stay consistent with this one, you'll be better. Look how good he was the last 2 years in Houston. I thought it should have been him, not Justin Verlander, that won the Cy Young, but you could have gone wrong with either one. Both guys deserved it. But I thought the way Cole pitched last year, he was a little bit more dominant than Verlander, but everyone thought it was Verlander. And it's like, hey, like no one's really going to argue it. Eric Carbonell brings up the Penguins. The Montreal Canadiens knocked the Penguins out. And the reason why he's saying thank you is because not only did the Penguins help the Rangers out, so the Rangers got swept. We all know that young team, they're going to be okay. I wish they would have won a game, but, they tried. They're young. I think they're on the right path. I think Shesterkin is ready to take the throne from Lundqvist. Lundqvist gave us 15 great years. I just think he's tired. I feel bad for Henrik. You know, I really do. I thought we should have won the Stanley Cup in 2014. Everyone's like, well, the Kings were a better team. No, they weren't. They weren't a better team than us. The Rangers were the best team in there. But because the Rangers relied so much on speed, while the Kings were more of a powerful team, that speed can only go so long when you're with a physical team. That physicality is always going to catch up to the speed. And the Rangers couldn't physically really match up per se with the LA Kings back in 2014. But what I will say is that we should have won that Stanley Cup, but we didn't. And then we let them down the next year when we didn't make it out of Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against Tampa. The Rangers really haven't been close since then. And it's just like, I think Henrik is just at this point beat up. It's time. I think it's time to us just to pass the throne now. Let's bring, Igor has played well. Georgiev has played well. If you can somehow keep Georgiev and Shesterkin as the 1-2, especially if Georgiev doesn't get picked in the expansion draft, which the NHL introduced the Seattle Kraken, maybe Lundqvist retires. Maybe Lundqvist finds another team to go to chase for the ring that might be a little bit ahead of the game than the New York Rangers are. You never know. But I think the Rangers are ready to take that next leap. But the reason why I bring their names up is because with the Blackhawks taking out the Oilers and the Canadians taking out the Penguins, it actually betters the chance for the Rangers to win that number 1 pick in the draft lottery, which is Monday. As we saw, the Blackhawks took out the Edmonton Oilers. It was an upset. And there's a few other scenarios that have to go down to really better the Rangers' chances of getting at least that number 1 pick. But hey. And then this one guy comes and he's like, Capocacco, he seems to be a bust. Dude, he's a rookie. Yeah, I mean, he's getting used to the new playing style. It's not one that he's used to, but he's getting used to it. He was at a minus 26. That's terrible. I get it. He's a rookie. He's got room to grow. What, you think I thought that Capocacco was going to come out here and be the next Wayne Gretzky in his first year? No. So don't do that. Like, I don't understand that. Don't do that. As I mentioned, the Yankees just hit a solo home run. They're up 5-0. That game is in the 4th. Let me see if there's some other. I think that's the only game that could potentially be going on. Actually, it's not. The Indians are beating up on the White Sox 6-0. That game is in the top of the 5th. All the other games are later on tonight, except for the Cubs-Cardinals game that got postponed because the Cardinals, a lot of the players have been tested positive for the COVID. One thing we don't really talk about on this show is wrestling. Everybody knows I'm a huge wrestling fan. We don't talk wrestling because, Mack doesn't really watch wrestling like that. It's not one that I brought up, but since he's not here, we can talk a little wrestling. I watched NXT the other day. I don't know if anyone noticed that spat between Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. So Adam Cole went on to the Pat McAfee show. Pat McAfee is a former punter for the Indianapolis Colts. And I guess Pat McAfee was kind of picking on Adam Cole, and Adam Cole flipped out, pushed his mic, was dropping F-bombs all on his show and everything, and nobody could understand if it was real or if it's a work. And then the Undisputed Era was going against Imperium for the NXT Tag Titles on Wednesday, and Pat McAfee was doing color commentary for the match, and Adam Cole was going after him, and Pat McAfee kicked him in his head, and Adam Cole sold it, and it looks like they're going to start battling it out. So it looks like it may have potentially been a work, but I tell you what, it's hilarious to me. I'll tell you, NXT is that show. The only thing about NXT, though, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, I'm not a fan of Keith Lee like everybody else is. I don't know why. Like, I can't get used to Keith Lee. I'm not saying that he sucks. I'm not saying that he's garbage. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, I can't warm up to him. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like I can't warm up to him. Like I have a hard time doing it. I don't know. I don't understand the hype. I don't get the hype. I just don't get it. Eric says, wrestling just, I'm so disillusioned by it now, how messed up things just are. Yeah, I don't know. They're trying, man. You know, they're trying with what they got. SummerSlam is what, in 2 Sundays from now? You know, I mean, everything is weird with everything that's going on. You know, everything is weird. Can't front on that. Everything is just weird, you know? And it's kind of like I mean, if you look up right now, you're seeing a lot of these college football. I don't even think this is really going to be a college football season. And if it is, you're only going to really have the major conferences going. The Mack earlier today announced that they're not going on with the season. They're not. And I don't blame them. You know what I'm saying? I don't blame them. If you feel like there's too much uncertainty of what's going on, hey, I'm not upset with you with it. I'm really not. But UConn flat out said we're not even joining in the football season. They flat out said we're not even doing anything. So I don't know, man. Everything is weird. Everything going on, everything is weird. In a little bit, we're going to break down the AFC West as we continue our training camps. We'll break down the AFC West for a little bit. Probably the toughest division going in football right now. Could be the AFC West. We know that the reigning Super Bowl champs are there in Kansas City. You also have the LA Chargers that people love to hype up, thinking, oh, this team's going to be so good, this and that and everything else. We'll see if they can get out of the mediocre pool. The Raiders have gotten a little better. They got the brand new stadium. And then you got the Denver Broncos, who today just signed DeMar Dotson, the former right tackle of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That team brought in Melvin Gordon to kind of pair up with Philip Lindsay. That's going to be a nice, good 1-2 to take the pressure off of Drew Lock. You know, they drafted a really good wide receiver this year. So the AFC West might be the toughest division in football. But I'll break that down with you guys in a little bit. I mean, the NBA is going on. And, man, I was thinking about this in the car earlier today on how good Michael Porter Jr. has become. I have a buddy who's a Knicks fan that swore up and down that the New York Knicks, when he was drafted, needed to trade up to get him. And I was thinking, why would we want somebody that has a broken back, that's having back issues? That's so typical Knicks to get someone that has back issues. A lot of teams passed up on him. And man snapped off yesterday. But you know what I hate, though, especially with me being a Knicks fan, and it drives me up a wall. But I hate these reports that I'm forever getting on my phone when they're like, Kemba Walker said he almost became a Knick. No, he didn't. And I don't believe that report. Because if you want to be 100% real about it, Kemba Walker had come out and said at least 3 times that he didn't want to go back and play for New York. He didn't want to play for the Knicks. He didn't want to play for the Nets. He probably knew right off the bat that he wanted to go play for Boston. So why is it all of a sudden it's, Kemba Walker's saying that he almost became a New York Knick? He was intrigued. Intrigued for what? So who's lying here? Is it the reports that when you became a free agent and you left Charlotte that you knew that you were going to Boston and you already said that you weren't going to go to New York? Or were you and the Knicks really engaged in conversation and that report was premeditated to take another shot at the New York Knicks? Which one was it going to be? It's like every time I look up, there's this report where somebody was close to being Damian Lillard apparently came out and said that when he had asked for a trade, that he almost was traded to New York. And supposedly the Knicks or the Blazers was asking for something that the Knicks weren't willing to give up. And I'm thinking, why do these reports keep coming out? You're not with the Knicks, so who cares? Okay, have the New York Knicks been run by a bunch of moo-moo morons? Yes. Phil Jackson, James Dolan. Let's start off at the top. I mean, think about it. James Dolan is the reason why Carmelo came to New York. But by reality, Donnie Walsh didn't want to make that trade. He didn't. I think Donnie Walsh knew that there was a rift between Mike D'Antoni and Carmelo Anthony. And think about it, it's got to be a lot of facts because Carmelo was so gung ho to go to Houston. And I'm thinking, why you want to go to Houston when you've already been having rifts with Mike D'Antoni? He didn't even last a year in Houston. So I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But I hate those reports. Damian Lillard almost came to New York Knicks. He's not in it. That's what I know. Kemba Walker almost came in there. LeBron James and Dwayne Wade almost came to New York Knicks when they were whatever. They didn't come. But now we got Leon Rose, who has some pull within the NBA. And we'll see what him and Scott Perry can do. But it looks like whatever's what's going on. Man, my nose itches for some unknown reason. But with Leon Rose, we'll see what happens. We already brought in Tom Thibodeau. So that's a good start. We got a good head coach coming in. So let's see what we can do after that. Let's see if we can build on top of that. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been looking at what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. I was in my phone. But I'm saying, oh, I know what I was gonna say. I've been seeing Mitchell Robinson put in work in the gym. And think about it. These guys drafted Mitchell Robinson, and this dude won the starting center job when they said that this guy was just a super raw project who would be ready in 3 years. He had the job within the first game of the season 2 years ago. Now he's worked on his dribbles. He's developed a little jump shot. There's looks of him practicing threes during the pandemic. He's been in the gym practicing on threes. I hope RJ Barrett's doing the same thing. So the Knicks got a few young pieces. I hope Kevin Knox is doing the same thing. That's got to be our three. I don't want to give up on Kevin Knox, but that's got to be our three young pieces. Not Robinson and RJ Barrett. Almost everybody else, including Julius Randle, if he doesn't learn how to change. Dude, Julius Randle is not a point forward. So he has to stop acting like he is one. You're not a point forward. Let the point guard run the floor. Knock that mess out. That stuff drives me up a wall. Every time I see him bring the ball up, I'm like, why? Why? Go set up. Get ready in the post. Get ready for the ball. Do something. But you're not a point forward. I mean, the Lakers look decent in this bubble. I've noticed that the Milwaukee Bucks have been struggling as of late. You better not have no reason why the Milwaukee Bucks, and I told everybody this before. You could go back and look at old Mack and Black tapes. I said the reason why the Milwaukee Bucks would not win a championship is because of Mark Budenholzer. Mark Budenholzer is a really good coach when it comes to the regular season. He is not a playoff proven head coach. Just look at the history. Go ahead and look at the history of it. This the same Mark Budenholzer who took a Atlanta squad that was a decent squad to a 62-20 record, which was the best in the NBA let alone the East that year, and they didn't even win a game against LeBron James. Then let's go to last year when you had a Milwaukee Bucks team that had, oh, by the way, the best record in the game. It got taken out by the you were up 2-0 on the Toronto Raptors and you lost 4 straight. You know, Giannis can only do so much. But he doesn't really have a second option. Like Chris Middleton, no offense, is not that dude. And they got Matthew Dellavedova's huff bum ass on that squad. Matthew Dellavedova is ass. Garbage. Total garbage. If I went one-on-one against Matthew Dellavedova, I cross him. And I don't even play basketball like that. But I know I'm a better player than he is. Come on, man. There's no second option on that team. And I will to the grave say that I don't think Mark Budenholzer is really that good of a playoff coach. He'll get you to a good record in the regular season. But he ain't gonna lead you to the promised land. You know who Mark Budenholzer reminds me of? He's like the NBA's equivalent version of what Jeff Garcia was in the NFL. How many teams was Jeff Garcia on where he would get you to the playoffs, but then you bring in another quarterback and that team then went to the Super Bowl? It's a couple of times that's happened in his career. Like, yeah, man, look, I'm good enough to get you 10, 11 wins, but man, when it comes to this playoff thing, woo, it's not easy. That was Jeff Garcia for the longest time. You know what I'm saying? And you know, looking at you know, everyone's talking about Giannis and LeBron for MVP. What about Dame though? Like, I think Damian Lillard deserves some type of love. That man is the Portland Trailblazers team. No knock against CJ McCollum, thinking if he needs a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? If he wants some cred, but man, if Damian Lillard dies, so does the whole Portland Trailblazers team. If Damian Lillard looks amazing, so does the whole Portland Trailblazers team. He is that squad. Plain and simple. He's that squad. He's that guy. He is the guy of Portland. As a matter of fact, I saw something where Paul George got a shot in his face in against Phoenix. Devin Booker put a game-winning J on him. Somebody made a collab of all the times Paul George has either been dunked on or had the final shot drained in his face. It is a legit 3-minute collab. Talking about playoff P. Boy, Paul George look in the playoffs sometimes looks like playoff crap. That's where that P is. You forgot the CRA. But the Lakers look decent though. You know, Anthony Davis, whew, that's a bad man right there. And people clowning, people saying, oh man, LeBron James is riding on the coattails of AD. Come on, man. You can say that about Scotty with Mike. You can say that Shaq with Kobe. You can say that LeBron with D Wade. If AD hot, he hot. If I was LeBron James, knowing that, you know, the 6'11 freakish athlete that is Anthony Davis is hot, I'm going to give him the ball. Stick with the hot hand. Shoot, that's that maturity of LeBron James. LeBron James ain't always got to go out there and put up 30. But at the same time, LeBron James knows, hey, man, there's another superstar on this squad that's really tearing it up right now. Why would I want to sit here and take the shots away from him if I know he's hot? I'm telling you, man, people just hate to love LeBron. I mean, love to hate LeBron James because it's just LeBron James. And the forever comparison between LeBron and Michael. It's just dumb. I've never been a fan of the whole comparison thing. It's stupid. Hella stupid. But that's where we're at. Bro, I've been talking for the last 45 minutes and it feels like I've been maybe in here for 15. Man. Oh, by the way, before I came in here, I stopped at a place called City Barbecue. They have these Nashville hot chicken sandwiches. If you've not been to City Barbecue to get a Nashville hot chicken sandwich, you need to go over there. Them boys is something fire. See, Nashville hot chicken to me, it's like, it's good, but I don't like. I get the concept where it's supposed to be like extremely high. It's like these blends of herbs and spices and this, like in this oil base that's supposed to make it hot. But sometimes I be feeling that Nashville hot chicken to me is bogus because it's just too much oil. Like you use a lot of oil to make the seasoning stick onto the chicken, and it just seems to me sometimes it's too much. Like when KFC be doing their Nashville hot chicken, it's too much oil. It's too much oil. It's too many spices. It just don't taste right. It just tastes like a lot of heat and oil and no chicken. But this Nashville hot chicken sandwich from City Barbecue, perfect amount of spice. It gives it because they fried. Like if you get it when it's fresh, you get that little crunch. Then you add the coleslaw on it, and kind of that creaminess from the coleslaw kind of like mixes with the heat of the chicken. Because remember, when you eat hot stuff, the two things that help kills the to kill the heat in your mouth is beer and milk. So when you get that creaminess of the slaw to kind of complement the little bit of the extra heat from the Nashville hot chicken, bro, it's something fire. It's something fire. I'm telling you, man. Shoot. I'm moving to Houston here in a few weeks. And I'm looking forward to this Texas style barbecue because I've never had real Texas style barbecue. And it's going to be something new for me because, I always barbecue mainly with pork. But Texas is all about that beef. And I hope that beef ribs in Texas cost a whole lot cheaper than they do up here in the Midwest. Up here in the Midwest, you get pork spare ribs, for pennies on the dollar if you find the right sale. Beef ribs up here are expensive as hell. But I'm looking forward to this Texas style sausage and Texas style beef brisket and Texas style ribs and all that. They don't really do the pork down there. I mean, which is fine, to each his own. I respect the community and whatnot because that's like in Kansas City. Kansas City's all about pork. And if I went to Kansas City and was like, oh my God, how come you guys don't have beef? That's not their territory. That's not how they roll. Like Texas has beef. Kansas City is pork. Carolina is more of the like the pork shoulder. They're like the shredded pork. And then you get Memphis. Their pork as well, but they do more like a vinegar base, like mop. Their barbecue's more moppish. Where here in Chicago, I've come to realize that Chicago is big on rib tips than they are per se on ribs. If you go to a lot of the west side, south side joints, a lot of those places do rib tips. I'm not saying that they don't do ribs, but ribs, I feel like are more of a restaurant thing than they are a in and out thing. Tips are more your in and out thing. And let me tell you what, since I've transitioned over to food before we get to football, my thing, and this is the one thing that I'm forever gonna miss when it comes to me leaving Chicago. Nothing in this. First of all, no matter what they try to tell you about New York, Chicago has the best cuisine in the world. You can't tell me nothing. I've been to New York. I've eaten in New York. I enjoyed New York. Chicago has them beat. Chicago has them beat on pizza. Chicago for damn near has them beat. And don't get me wrong, I like New York thin style pizza. But the biggest misconception that everybody has is everyone thinks that Chicago is all about the deep dish. Let me give you a news flash. Here out here in Chicago, we don't always be like, hey, let's go to, I had a deep dish pizza last week. Let's go and get a Giordano's or Fat Ricky's or Lou Maldenati's, which by the way I think is crap, or Geno's East, another place that's crap, or Pequot. Any of the places that sell deep dish pizza that's what we eat on the go every day. That's not what we do. One of the biggest wars that I've realized between New York and Chicago isn't necessarily deep dish versus thin crust. It's the triangle cut versus the square cut. Because out here in Chicago, we love cutting our pizzas in squares. And the New Yorkers get so pissed about it. They're like, oh my God, that's not how you cut a pizza. You can't cut a pizza in squares. Who takes a pizza and a round pizza, puts it in the square box and cuts it in squares? We do out here in Chicago. And guess what? If I took the same pizza and cut it in triangles, it's going to taste the same goddamn way that it does in squares. That's New York people being on that prima donna. Oh, Trey, we cut our pizzas in triangles because we walk up and down the street, we eat where we go. And we. Nobody cares. Come to Chicago. Come out here. Before I go, let me show you how we do. I'm not saying New York food sucks. New York food is great. It just doesn't hold a candle to us. Not even in a little bit. And yes, I know it might sound sacrilegious that I'm wearing this Yankee stuff. Again, I'm not dissing New York. I'm just saying when it comes to food, New York is great. We're even better. You know, I know New York could be like Italian, what I love, 101. It's some joints out here in Chicago that'll fade New York. Fade New York. Todd says, I'm out of my mind about the pizza. Brooklyn has the best pizza in the country. Allegedly. Brooklyn might be nice. Not going to deny that. It ain't us. You take one bite of the Pequods in Chicago, I guarantee you'd be like, man, New York needs to step his game up. And that's going to happen. It's going to happen, man. You're going to defend it because you eat it so much. You know, the one thing that New York has that I wish Chicago was better at are deli sandwiches. I love a good cold cut sandwich from the time to time basis. Chicago, we ain't really, in my opinion, we ain't about that life. Not like New York is. I had about 3 or 4 sandwiches when I was out there in New York. And, even though I thought they were kind of expensive, they were worth every single penny. Every penny. We was out in Central Park, and for the life of me, I can't think of where this place is called in Central Park. But I had gotten one of them club sandwiches out there. Bro, that sandwich was fire on the marble rye, and they had toasted the marble rye, and then they put like the perfect amount of mayonnaise on it, and it had what the club sandwich, lettuce, tomato, everything. Fire. That boy was fire. As a matter of fact, I was out with my buddy Brian Murphy the very first time I went to New York. He took me to a place in Queens, I think it was, called Cherry Valley. That place is fire too. 24 hours. And like the New York deli style places are such money in the bank because it's like a restaurant / deli. So it's like, yeah, I come in here for a pound of roast beef, but let me get that roast beef special with the provolone and add a little extra mayonnaise on it with the bread. And I think a lot of them places kind of bake their bread in-house. New York's got us faded on the deli game. I'm not even going to sit and act like Chicago's really good on the deli game. We're mediocre to average at best. New York's got us faded on that. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. Not even gonna lie. Y'all deli plays. That's the one thing I correct. Matter of fact, when I do come back out in New York, which looks like it's gonna be 2021 with everything going on by the time I get back out there, bro, I'm trying to hit one of them places where they be selling them foot long hoagies or something. The grinder sandwiches or whatever they call it, man. I want one of those. I'm trying to find out. I'm telling you, man, I dig a really good sandwich. Like out here, we got like Subway. Like I feel like everything out here is really chainish. You know, like Jersey Mike's is good. You know, Subway gets the job done. Panera's okay, but we don't really have no exclusive deli spots like New York does, and I'm jealous of that. Todd says you're one of the few people that think Chicago's food. That's because y'all, that's because people don't see the problem is that a lot of people that say that New York food is better than Chicago food hasn't really been to Chicago. That's the problem. See, when you're stuck in your own New York bubble, you're going to always think that it's better. You're going to always think it's better. Shoot. But I'm telling you, Chicago is where it's at. Because I tell you what, anyone that thinks that hot dogs in New York is better than Chicago is either a real New York homer or just doesn't have taste buds or just natural haters of Chicago. New York hot dogs suck. Those Nathan hot dogs are terrible. Terrible. I'll tell you right now. I can tell you this right now. I'll meet you halfway in the middle. If you lined up 10, what's a middle city between New York and Chicago? Like Pittsburgh. Let's go Pittsburgh. You took 10 people from the city of Pittsburgh. You took 10 of those nasty ass Nathan hot dogs and bring out 10 of the greatest hot dogs in the world, Vienna beef, Chicago style hot dogs in here. I will guarantee you at least 9 of those people will take Chicago over New York. Your hot dogs suck. The brown Nathan's mustard that comes on it sucks. Everything about it sucks. If you want, and let me tell you this better. The Chicago Polish would beat out Nathan's hot dogs. Those things are terrible. I had one when I went to Coney Island when I was out there the last time. Very unimpressed. Unimpressed. It was disgusting. And I almost slipped. I'm like, man, y'all ain't got no Chicago style hot dogs out here. And I was like, I forgot I'm in New York. Forgot. Sorry. Inferior hot dogs. I don't know how New Yorkers eat Nathan's hot dogs. And they're like, man, these are some of the best hot dogs in the world. No, they're not. Shoot, I'll do you even one better. You don't even have to do the best hot dogs in the world, which are Vienna beef. Go get you some Scott Peterson's. Chicago-based Scott Peterson sausage. Still beats the crap out. All Nathan's is a name. All Nathan's is a name. That's all it is. Chicago style hot dogs are better. Chicago pizza, I hate to say it, is better. Sorry. And it's okay for New York to be number 2 on that. Y'all can be number 2. It's okay. You're not top 10 in your hot dog game. You're number 1 in your. You're probably number 1 in your what did I just say? Oh, the deli game. You're number 1. I'll probably give you number 1 in your Hibarito game. Because I know the the real deal Holyfield Puerto Ricans stay out there, and I know them here burritos are probably extra fire. So I give y'all number 1. We'll take number 2 on that. Everything else though, man, y'all don't hold a candle to us. Pizza, y'all number 2. Hot dogs, you're not even in the top 10. Italian food, we can go neck and neck on that. I know your rib game sucks. I don't even think New York has rib game. Your rib game sucks. And let me say this too. I know that there's a lot of those trucks out there that be selling a little gyro meat and stuff on there. Don't get me wrong, it's fine. Not as good as us. Not even close. The gyro sandwiches in Chicago are the best in the world. Tommy says, big old water. Hey, you know me. I always come with the big jug. Always coming with the big jug. But the reason why I went on that tangent about Chicago food versus New York food is the one thing that I'm forever going to miss is if you go like out west to one of those rib joints and you ask for like a large tip with all the fries, this is the best thing I can tell you. You go to the rib joint, ask them for, I personally like a lot. I'm huge. I love rib tips. Don't get me wrong. I really do love ribs, but there are days when I really just want some tips. I don't even want the ribs. I just want the tips. Because if you can master rib tips to where they're so tender and they just come off the bone, oh my God, it's amazing. So what you do is you go out west, get you a large tip, and tell them, give me all the fries you can give me. And they put the fries underneath, right? And then they squirt it with the barbecue sauce or the mild sauce with, sometimes I think they use both. I think the mild sauce is best for fries and the meat. That's me, but some places maybe, some places not. But nonetheless, though, if they hit the fries with it, and then they put the meat on top of the fries, and then they hit some more sauce, and then they put two pieces of bread on top, and you wrap it. Now, with me being from Bolingbrook, that means I can now drive from the west side to Bolingbrook. That's easily 45 minutes, no traffic. The whole time that I'm driving, the flavorful grease from the tips are marrying with the fries and the sauce. So when you get home, you unwrap it. You take the bread off the meat. It's going to stick to the meat because they didn't put the barbecue sauce. So when the white bread is stuck onto the tips with the meat, and then you separate with the fries, and the fries got that barbecue sauce with the rib tip grease, it's heaven. It is probably the greatest Chicago cuisine that a lot of people don't talk about. Because most people, when they go and order tips from the west side, are from the area. So by the time they get to the house, the fries are still crispy, and the grease really hasn't really made it all the way down there to marry the fries. But if you take a nice long drive and you let that grease just drip right into the fries, and then you get to the fries and you get that one fry that's got just enough of the rib tip grease and enough of the barbecue sauce, and it gets in your mouth, you might fall out because it's the greatest thing ever. Ever. I'm telling you, people sleep on Chicago when it comes to food because what? Because the perception of Chicago, everyone thinks we're just out here in a war zone. All you hear is this person shot, that person shot, this going on, that going on. Lori Lightfoot said this, Priscus said that. They think that we're, you look at the media and the news and everyone thinks that we're morons and whatnot, but it's furthest from it. Because when it comes to cooking, look at me. Does it look like I've missed a meal in the last 30 years? Hell no. There's a reason for that. So if I got this fat in Chicago, you think that I'm sitting here and think that anywhere else in the world has better food than us? Hell no. I bet you if I went to Kansas City and I had some barbecue from Kansas City, I'm like, man, this barbecue's fat, because Kansas City has their own style. But I don't think Kansas City's rib tip game would probably be as strong as Chicago's rib tip game. Not even close. Not even close. The popcorn game in Chicago, Garrett's, and some of the other places out here, man, y'all don't know nothing, man. I don't even know why I'm talking. Y'all don't know nothing. Y'all keep staying in y'all East Coast, down south bubbles. Y'all don't know nothing. Y'all don't know nothing about that Chicago cuisine, man. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Please. All this talk about rip tips damn near makes me want to go out west my own damn self. I'm borderline about to hit up my mom like, hey, see if you can grab another one of them medium tips or something. And if you find a place that y'all don't know nothing about the hot links either, man. I'm telling you, y'all don't know nothing about that, man. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Looks like the Rays and scored a little bit. And as soon as I say that, the MVP of the league, Aaron Judge, just goes deep, and the Yankees now take a 7-3 lead. Richard says, you from Chicago when you out. I don't like Chicago sports. You can make fun of me all you want on that, and that's fine. But I don't like Chicago sports. I've never liked Chicago sports since I was young. I've always been a Knicks fan since I've been a Knicks fan since 1992. What year is this now? 2020? I'm almost on my 30th year. Of course, I'm going to do that. That's how I roll. I know it comes off real funny, doesn't it? I'm like, God, he's saying he loves Chicago and he's wearing New York stuff. Been a Yankees fan since 1995, man. I said I'll always ride or die when it comes to the New York sports scene. I'll always ride or die when it comes to the New York sports scene. But when it comes to the New York food scene, y'all, like I said, y'all might have some stuff great. But it don't hold a candle to what we got out here in Chicago. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. I love Chicago food. I will always defend Chicago food to the day I die. Always. 7-3 Yankees win right now. Get back to our winning ways. Yankees lost back-to-back games for the first time. No, but chump change. It's not like anyone else in the American League East. Everyone was sitting here saying how Tampa is going to like all of a sudden shock the world and beat the Yankees because they have a better starting pitching than us and they're younger than us and all this other stuff than us and blah, blah, blah. The Rays can't even get to 500. What makes you think that they're going to beat us in a best of 3, 5, 7, whatever game series? Everyone thinks that for some odd reason the Tampa Bay Rays can over and outdo the New York Yankees, and they can't. You know who the Tampa? You know what people remind me of that when it comes to the Tampa Bay Rays? Oh, what's a team that always there? It's almost like the LA Chargers. It's almost like I swear there's always that one team that everyone's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be the year. It was the Washington Nationals for the longest time before they won the World Series last year. And think about it, a lot of people didn't even think that the Nationals were gonna win the World Series last year. They just got hot. Soon as they beat Milwaukee to get into the playoffs, they just got hot. But how many years under Bryce Harper was like, yeah, this is the year the Nationals are gonna do it. They're gonna be great. Yeah. They got Scherzer. Yeah. They got Strasburg. Yeah. Everything's going to be great. Yeah. And they always crap the bed. It's the same thing with the Los Angeles Chargers. Everyone swears up and down that Phillip Rivers is this great quarterback and the Chargers are going to be so great. And they got this defense that's out of this world. And I mean, they overhyped the piss out of this team. And they're either one and done in the playoffs or Phillip Rivers is crying the blues on the sidelines. Like everyone thinks that Phillip Rivers is great because in his claim to fame he had beaten Peyton Manning so many times in the playoffs. But you never even sniffed the big dance. It's like, okay, the then San Diego Chargers have come out and beat the Denver Broncos in the playoffs. And look, what's his name's on the sidelines, talking smack to Peyton Manning because Phillip Rivers is such a fiery guy and blah, 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 blah when it comes to the Los Angeles Chargers. That's what the Tampa Bay Rays are. Yeah, man, Kevin Cash is doing a great job with this team and they don't have a great payroll. But Blake Snell's a former Cy Young Award winner, and they got this great bullpen and yak. I swear to God, the Tampa Bay Rays get ever hyped every time. And it's not, I think it's because of the talent. I think people look at the age and they say, oh, this young team's really gelling together, and the Yankees are too old, and the Red Sox, they just suck, and the Baltimore Orioles are on the, they're on the rebuilding tip, and the Toronto Blue Jays got great young talent, but they're not ready to put it together. So all these guys got to figure out this team that's supposed to be better than the New York Yankees, and every single flipping year, it's the Tampa Bay Rays. And who's the one team that comes short every year? It's the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays have come up short so bad that when they made the World Series in 2008 and lost to the Phillies, the big brother New York Yankees the very next year had to show the Tampa Bay Rays how you beat the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series and beat them in 6. And guess who hasn't even sniffed the World Series since they did that? I swear to God, it's every single year. It's every single year. Tampa Bay, the Rays. The Rays ain't squat. How about that? Mediocre. Yeah, they got some good players. They're not beating the Yankees. Duh. Hello? And my best Herman Edwards. Hello? You play to win the game. Sweet mamacita. I'm actually going to turn. I shouldn't turn this game on quite yet, because I'm going to break down the AFC West. Man, how long have I been talking for now? An hour and 10 minutes. I'm telling you, I feel like I ain't been in here in a half hour. It's how much fun I'm having right now. But should we? Let's get into the AFC West. Hell, let's get into the AFC West. Let's do it. Let's see. Let me pull up my notes. I'm glad everyone that's been tuning in. I hope you guys have been having fun. I'm not gonna say here and lie. I hope you guys have been enjoying the show so far. If you just tuned in, I just went on a tangent how Chicago food's better than New York food, and then everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're wearing a Yankees jersey," because I'm a Yankees fan. That's usually what happens. And I don't want people to fly off the handle either, because people be like, "Oh, Nick is out there saying that New York sucks." I didn't say y'all suck. I just say you're not better than Chicago when it comes to the cuisine. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Looks like Darius Geis just got released by the Washington football team. It's still kind of weird calling him that. A lot of people are hoping that the Washington Redskins call themselves the Red Tails. It seems like that seems to be the heavily favored name. We'll see. I don't know why you just don't. I guess somebody must have trademarked a lot of the names that the formerly known Redskins were going to call themselves. But Dan Snyder be on that cheap nonsense because someone's looking for a payday. Oh, so you want to call yourself the Red Tails? I'm gonna need at least $7 million if you want me to give you the trademark of that name. Hey man, dog eat dog, I guess. Dog eat dog, I guess. All right, let's get into these. Let's get into the AFC West real quick before we get towards the end of the show. I'm gonna start with the Las Vegas Raiders. Start with the Raiders. Looking at the depth chart of the Raiders right now. So obviously starting quarterback right now is probably going to be Derek Carr. Remember, they brought in Marcus Mariota. They got Nathan Peterman as well. It looks like what's his name may not actually be on the team anymore. Mike Glennon. Josh Jacobs obviously is going to be the starting running back. Then you got Tyrell Williams, Henry Ruggs the third. That's their draft pick from this year. And Hunter Renfrow. Darren Waller that really came up this year tight end. Remember, they also brought in Jason Witten from Dallas this year. From left to right, you got Colton Miller, Richie Incognito, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and Big Trent Brown. That's your left to right on the offensive line. Looking at their 4-3 defense, they're going to the 4-3 this year. Celine Farrell. They also brought in Carl Nassib, who was with Tampa Bay last year. Malik Collins, Jonathan Haskins, and then Max Crosby. Max Crosby looks like he's hurt, so there's a good chance that Carl Nassib could get that job if Max Crosby doesn't get better. The linebackers from the wide to the strong is Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton, and Nicholas Morrow. And from left to right in the secondary is Trayvon Miller, Jonathan Abram, Demarius Randall, and Prince Amukamura for left to right. Then looking at the schedule of the Raiders, it looks like this. They'll start off at Carolina, then they're home Monday night at home against the New Orleans Saints. Then they'll be at New England, home against Buffalo, at Kansas City. Then they'll have the bye week. Then they'll be home against the Bucks. That's a Sunday night game. At Cleveland, at LA for the Chargers. Back-to-back home games between Denver and Kansas City, at Atlanta, at New York. 3 straight home games, which include at Indianapolis, a Thursday night game home game against Indianapolis, Thursday night home against the Chargers, and then a home game against Miami, and then they'll finish off at Denver. Looking at that schedule, here's the thing I have with the Raiders. So here's the thing I think about. I said earlier about the AFC West that I think this might be the toughest division in football because every team really has a strength. Kansas City's defending Super Bowl champs. You have LA kind of got better, especially defensively. The Broncos definitely got better. But then when you talk about the Raiders, I feel like there's some uncertainty. And I think the uncertainty is at quarterback. Because how much faith does John Gruden really have in Derek Carr? Me personally, I'm not saying he doesn't have faith, but is that Gruden's guy, so to speak? Because I could have swore that the way that Peterman came in with the Raiders and the way that Glennon came in with the Raiders, that there was going to be some type of competition, letting Derek Carr know that this job isn't necessarily going to be yours. Like, it's not etched in stone. Like, don't get too comfortable because you could slip and I can take your behind out. And that really wasn't to be. At the same time, though, now you go out and you get a Marcus Mariota, who's, I think, younger and faster and gets a second chance somewhere else. So I think a lot of pressure right now is on Derek Carr. With that being said, I kind of got some questions on the Raiders defense. I just mentioned Max Crosby maybe being out, so will Carl Nassib take his spot? The linebackers seem to kind of be okay. I feel like there's a little bit of holes in their secondary. Looking at their schedule, though, their schedule is looks like the Rays just scored, so it's now 7-4. Looking at their schedule, though, I'm thinking the Raiders could be maybe 8-8, if not 9-7. They're playing the NFC South, they're playing the AFC East. I think outside of, I don't know what New England, kind of what they're going to look like. Maybe this will be a little bit of a different type of team than what we're used to seeing. But I'm thinking maybe 9-7, 8-8, 9-7. I don't see the Raiders being below 500 this year. As a matter of fact, I don't really see a team in the West really being below 500 this team. That's how good I think the AFC West is going to be. So I would say 8-8, 9-7 for the Raiders. I'll go to Denver. Put Denver next. All right, looking at Denver, obviously Drew Lock is going to be their starting quarterback. They went out and signed Melvin Gordon. And as I mentioned earlier, you have the 1-2 punch of Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. And that's a really good 1-2 punch to kind of take a little bit off that pressure off of Drew Lock. Then you get Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. A lot of people thought that Jerry Jeudy was the best wide receiver of the coming out of the draft class last year. People thought he was the best route runner. People thought that he was the best. Okay, good. So the Yankees got out of that. So 7-4. The best route runner, the best overall package. Wide receiver out of the draft, and they fell down to, I think it was 15 to the Denver Broncos. So really good pick, a good guy to lock up with Drew Lock. And then, they got Noah Fant playing tight end from left to right. Garrett Bowles, Dalton Reisner, Lloyd Cushenberry III, Graham Glasnow, and Elijah Wilkinson. And as I mentioned earlier, they did sign DeMar Dotson, so there's a little bit more depth in the offensive line for the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos run 3-4, so Jarrell Casey, Mike Purcell, Shelby Harris in the front. And then from wide to strong, got Von Miller, Alexander Johnson, Todd Davis, and Bradley Chubb. And then from left to right in the secondary, you have Isaac Yondom, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, and A.J. Bowie. So I think in the secondary, maybe a little weak. Not bad, but maybe just a little bit on the weak side. We'll see how that goes. And then looking at the Broncos schedule, they start off at home against Tennessee. That's a Monday night game. And then they'll be at Pittsburgh, home against the Bucks, at the Jets, at New England, and then back-to-back home games against Miami and Kansas City. The bye week, then at Atlanta, at the Raiders, home against the Chargers, home against the Saints, at Kansas City, at Carolina, home against Buffalo, at the Chargers, and then home to finish off the season with Las Vegas. As I mentioned earlier, I really like that Jerry Jeudy pick. I think that Drew Lock has now become comfortable in the offense for the Denver Broncos. It's just about protecting him. I think bringing in Melvin Gordon to complement Phillip Lindsay, and they're probably going to end up sharing carries if Gordon doesn't take the job from Lindsay. But it's still a good 1-2 punch. Obviously, Bradley Chubb is coming off the ACL injury. You're going to bring in a Von Miller. He's getting older, but he's still effective. I think this team can go 9-7, 10-6. I see some really good winnable games here. I think the Jets are a winnable game. I think New England's a winnable game. I think Vegas is a winnable game. I think Atlanta's a winnable game. I think New Orleans is a winnable game. I mean, they might even pull one off against Tampa. That could be a winnable game. So I think there's and it's tough for me to say that as a Bucs fan, but I know that the Bucs sometimes have struggled, especially on the West Coast against the Denver Broncos. So we'll see how that goes, but I still think it's 10-6. I think this team can be 10-6. I think Vic Fangio is really starting to get comfortable with being a head coach. I think he's kind of gone like the Lovie Smith route, where he's focused on the defense and he's got a guy that he can trust on the offense. And it looked like Drew Lock was really starting to come to his own towards the end of the year as the starting quarterback. So I think the Broncos could really go 10-6. Let's go to the Chargers real quick. They're next. I think the Chargers could potentially be the second best team in this division. Remember, they went out and got Justin Herbert, but there's no telling if he's going to be the starting quarterback. Yes, you drafted him 6th overall, but they went out and also signed Tyrod Taylor. So you know that they're going to battle out for that job out there. But, they lost Melvin Gordon, so Justin Eckler now becomes the new starting running back out there. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joe Reed, the 3 wide receivers, Hunter Henry being your tight end. From left to right, Sam Tevy, Dan Freeney, Mike Pouncey, Try Turner, and Brian Bulaga, who they got from Green Bay, is from left to right in their secondary. They run a 4-3. So Joey Bosa, who just got paid, with Justin Jones, Melvin Ingram III, and Linval Joseph is the front 4. From wide to strong, Denzel Perryman, Kenneth Murray, Drew Tranquil. And then from left to right in the secondary, Chris Harris Jr., Derwin James, Nasir Adderley, and Casey Hayward Jr. not a bad secondary. Especially bringing in Chris Harris from Denver, coming over into the other side of the rivalry with San Diego. That's a big move for the Chargers. And then looking at their schedule, at Cincinnati, back-to-back home games, Kansas City, Carolina, home against the Bucks, Monday night game at. I'm sorry. I take that back. They're at Tampa Bay. Then they have a Monday night game at New Orleans, home against the Jets, at Miami, Jacksonville, and Vegas are both home games. Their bye week is week 10. Then they finish off with the schedule, on the remainder of the schedule, at Denver, at Buffalo, back-to-back home games with New England and Atlanta, at Vegas, home against Denver, and at Kansas City. I think this is another 10-16. The real question for me with LA, with the Chargers, is who's going to start? Is it going to be Tyrod Taylor, or do you put the kid in first? I think either way you look at it, I personally think Tyrod's going to win the job. I think they might let Justin kind of back him up and learn the game as time goes on. And you either bring in Tyrod if he's not effective, or you bring in Justin if Tyrod gets hurt. I do think Tyrod Taylor wins the starting job, and I like Justin Herbert. I just think that based on them bringing in Tyrod Taylor, and drafting Justin Herbert. Yes, I think there's going to be a competition there, but I think especially with having no preseason now, I think you want to bring in with the guy that has the veteran experience, and that guy is going to be Tyrod Taylor. But looking at the schedule, I still think that they're just like Denver to me. They could be a 10-6, 9-17. I really have no team in the West going below 500. I think the West is going to be the toughest division. But yeah, 9-7, 10-6 for the Chargers, easily. And then let's go to Kansas City. Let's talk about the defending Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs had a really good draft. I really did. I think the Chiefs really killed it in the draft. They went out there and they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And remember, there were talks about some of these teams that were going to trade up to get Edwards-Helaire. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Chiefs stayed at 32 and took Helaire. And I'm like, man, that is a huge move. That adds more speed and playmaking to an offense that's already got plenty of speed and playmaking. Because a lot of people thought that Edwards-Helaire, because I think didn't Edwards-Helaire go to LSU? He did, and we saw how good he was in that championship game against Clemson, and how much he was really a playmaker for Joe Burrow. So now he goes from Joe Burrow to Patrick Mahomes, who just pretty much sealed the rest of his life playing in Kansas City. Come on, man. That contract Kansas City gave him is a monstrous contract worth every dollar for Patrick Mahomes. In that contract, it said that if the salary cap goes up, he gets paid more money. And then Patrick Mahomes went and took some of that money and invested it into the Kansas City Royals baseball team. So that pretty much lets you know he ain't going nowhere no time soon. He ain't going nowhere. Man. And looking at the depth chart, obviously we just talked about Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Washington's on his team too, backing him up. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, and Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce, your left to right. Offensive line is Eric Fisher, Kelechi Asamele, Austin Ryder, Andrew Wiley, and Mitchell Schwartz is left to right in the offensive line. Alex Okafor, Chris Jones, who got paid. Derek Nandi, Frank Clark is 4-3 left to right. Willie Gay Jr., Andrew Hitchens, and Damian Wilson is your wide to strong linebackers. And then Brashad Breeland, Tyrann Mathieu, Juan Thornhill, and Travarius Ward is your secondary. And then quickly looking at the Kansas City Chiefs schedule, they got the Thursday night game versus Houston. So obviously that's the banner raising game from them winning the Super Bowl. They're at the Chargers Monday night against Baltimore. Then their home games against New England and Vegas, at Buffalo, at Denver, home against the Jets, home against Carolina. They have the bye week. And then they're at the Vegas Raiders, at Tampa versus Denver, at Miami, at New Orleans, versus or home against Atlanta, home against the Chargers. I think this team is 14-2. I really do. I think this team is 14-2, and the main reason why I think that not only do I think Kansas City is 14-2, I think Kansas City has another run of a Super Bowl division in them. I think they drafted great. They locked up their best player in Mahomes. They locked up their best defensive player in Chris Jones. So you kept the core, and you still got so much speed in Hill. So much speed. Look how Sammy Watkins resurrected his career. Look how good he was in Kansas City, getting balls thrown to him, making plays, making chances. Travis Kelce is still one of the top 3 tight ends in all of football, if not top 2 to some people. You know what I'm saying? And this defense just makes plays. And as long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be in every game. And we saw how great he was last year. 14-2. Somebody's going to get him. So there's going to be a couple teams that's going to beat them, but they're 14-2 and the number 1 team in the AFC easily. I think they're number 1 team in the AFC over Baltimore. But wouldn't that be exciting to watch if Kansas City and Baltimore find their ways to play 1 versus 2 in a AFC title game? That'd be monstrous. Anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett said. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. We'll see. So that's the AFC West. Next week, Mack should be back, and we'll do the AFC South. And then we'll be finished with the AFC, and then we'll move on to the NFC, my favorite conference of football. And we'll start with the East. So one more to go, and then that's it. But right now, I think the Yankees are still winning. They are now still winning. It's now 8-4. So the Yankees still out here putting in their work. It is 8-4 in the top of the 7th. So based on baseball rules, the top of the 7th, it's like the equivalent of the top of the 9th, which I still think is beyond stupid, but whatever, I guess. So, well, guys, that's about it. That's all I got. I just wanted to talk a little basketball, talk plenty of baseball. Thank you to the Blackhawks and the Montreal Canadiens for winning your perspective playoff matchups, because now that helps the Rangers get the number 1 pick. So thank you on that. We talked a little football, talked a little food, a little goofing around and whatnot. But hey, I had fun. Had fun holding it down for the both of us, and we'll both be back in studio come next week. So that's all I got. So thanks you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And until next week, for Mack, I'm Black saying peace.